Timothy Cox is a realtor and team leader of Timothy Cox and Company located in Atlanta, Georgia. Timothy's team helps their clients avoid real estate drama so they can buy or sell with calm and confidence. Atlanta is a very fast-paced and competitive market, and their team's goal is to be a partner and a friend who will tap into every skill and superpower they have to get their clients a contract and also an experience that is worth celebrating. I love their thoughtful approach, not only to their customer service and their intentionality behind their messaging and culture. If you're looking for any inspiration on what true authenticity looks like, I highly recommend looking at Timothy's team and their website. Check out their website, which I'll put in the description, timothycox.com. I just loved all of your messaging as I was preparing for this.
Yeah.
Timothy, I want to go back to the very beginning. How did you originally get into real estate?
Well, first of all, I'd like for you to call me every morning and do that again. That was like the biggest affirmation. And I can't thank you enough for doing the research. Sometimes as agents and just professional services, we forget about the content that's on our website and how it connects, that we're more so moving to the next bell and whistle. So thank you for reminding me. Our website's pretty robust. And just for anyone listening, it follows what's called the story brand method, building a story brand, written by a gentleman by the name of Don Miller, who previously wrote fiction and now is in business booking. And he's just fantastic. But buildingastorybrand.com. But thank you, Elena. My story is pretty easy. 20 years ago, there was a business that I shouldn't be in because I did not have the skill set. And I had a mentor that was so kind to say, this is really not for you, and pointed me in the direction of sales. And with that journey of sales, I saw real estate 20 years ago as being such a wonderful opportunity, and having a little bit of technical background, but not a lot, a little bit of sales background, not a lot, but networking. And quickly realized this was a relationship building business, and grew it from there. So 10 years later, struggling on my own. My CRM was a spreadsheet, or at the time it was a BlackBerry. You're welcome. And all the contacts that were within. And about the 11th to 12th year mark, I figured out pretty quickly that in order to grow this, I needed a CRM. We experimented just a little bit, and then finally landed on Follow Up Boss. And for the Keller Williams people out there that are going, wait a minute, he's a Keller Williams agent, he's not using Command. We started using Follow Up Boss prior to Command, and we wouldn't leave them. It's just not possible. So people ask me all the time, hey, can you recommend a good CRM? And my answer is one that you'll use. So whether you're a Follow Up Boss person, whether you're a Command person, whether you're, gosh, there's a dozen of them out there. Brevity, there's so many, and they're all great, but pick one that you're going to actually use and stay with. And for us, it was Follow Up Boss.
I love that.
Now I have a team of 4 agents. I am in production. And I think that's important to mention in this particular conversation, because what Elena does and what she suggests, I get to see it not just from an agent application and a team application, but I also get to see it as a client interaction, because I also assign the action plans. I also do the drifts. I also do the tags. I also use her pre-designed action plan. So to say that I've test-driven your action plans is an understatement. So, and yes, I can tell you for sure, and I need to do a better job of telling your team this, Elena, is we have had people that have gone cold for 6 months suddenly reply to this random email that was part of an action plan, and we have them as clients. So it happens more often than it doesn't, just so you know.
Wow. That's so great.
Elena, how was that for an introduction?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Okay.
Done. You got everything at one time. I'm just kidding. So after you got into real estate, do you remember where you got your first deal from?
Wow. I had a new listing, and I was driving the area, and I was driving by this particular listing, and I saw somebody jump out of the car and grab a flyer, a paper flyer out of a box. And I said, hey, do you want more information about that? Because that flyer is only going to be one dimensional.
Mm.
And he said, well, sure. So that was my first buyer and my first deal. We closed maybe 60 days after that. It wasn't specifically about that property. It was just that was his only way of really getting information about listings. And the rest is history. So from that particular gentleman, we stayed with him all the way through the progression of life. So we bought his bachelor pad, sold his bachelor pad, bought a place for he and his wife. They got pregnant. And then 3 years later, sold, bought, and they are now on kid number 3, of which they're an active client for us. So I've done 5 transactions from that flyer.
Wow, that's a true testament to
Yeah.
your.
And thank you for like jogging the memory, because I had kind of forgotten about how I had met him originally, but he was my very first client.
I think you're the first person I've talked to where your first deal did not come from like a family member.
Ah,
And it came from a stranger. So that's really interesting and unique that was the case. So were you hosting an open house, or were you driving by and you just saw him get out of his car and get the flyer?
I had a new listing that was coming in the area. I wanted to drive the area, get to know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was pulling a flyer for what you would call a competing listing. And to answer your question, or just put some brackets around, first agent you've talked to that didn't get a client from their direct family, if you met my family, you would understand on why they're probably not the best referral source. And we're just going to do that right there.
Okay.
Hi, Mom. No, we're all good.
That's good. That's good. So you started off by yourself. Is that correct? You started off as a solo
That's
agent?
correct.
Okay. Who was your first hire?
My first hire, and who is now also my business partner, was JoJo Gilbert Ross. So JoJo Gilbert Ross was into staging homes, high emotional skills, great connector, was growing her business pretty well. And we had a coffee and said, you really should be in real estate. And there's been no looking back from that point. So she's an intricate part of the team. She's my senior partner. She's basically the counterbalance to some of my poor decisions and doing course correction. So
yeah, that's great to
hire
have
people you love and that are going to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. So after your first hire of JoJo, who's now your business partner, how did that progress into future hires and then eventually adding agents?
Great question. So we got really good at lead generation early on. And from the lead generation, we quickly recognized this was more business than we could handle, or more leads than we could handle. So I made a conscious decision to say, here's a guy who started real estate that said he'd never have a team. And now these knuckleheads keep showing up every day and they want to be a part of this team. I tried to scare them away, but we're one of the highest producing teams in the city of Decatur and Metro Atlanta. So we went from, let's try this out, to going, it is absolutely necessary to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that want to do business, and that are incredibly great at giving you feedback. So our ideas flow up, they don't flow down. And it's been a great ride.
I love that your ideas flow up and not down.
And also they're in the room, so they heard me say all of that.
Because they're in the room. Like, I have to be nice.
Yeah, no, I never thought in my vision, my 10-year, 20-year vision, would ever think in a million years I would have a team. I always envisioned myself as being a solo agent because I had no idea how to do it. And I was literally just blinded by the sheer daunting task of applying some sort of follow-up, some sort of centralized. And that's when we got serious about a CRM. And with a CRM, it literally allowed us to have a team.
That's great. So you mentioned lead generation. Where were you getting leads at the time? And are you still using those platforms today?
Define platform.
Were you generating your own leads through your own ads, or did you hire
Ah,
an agency, or was it through like open houses or organically getting leads? Where did that lead generation come from?
great question. So, primarily when I started out as a one agent, it was buying from realtor.com. Believe it or not, realtor.com was the new player. Zillow didn't exist, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
pay to play platform, and it worked really well. Um, we did it all the way up until we went with Follow Up Boss. And then what Follow Up Boss taught us and the team is the power to have a database and a reminder to call people. So, best answer to your question is we were buying leads from realtor.com. We still are a very loyal realtor.com client, but also our lead generation looks more like contacting and asking from our current sphere. Um, but as a new agent, I would highly recommend engaging some sort of lead source platform and see it through the best practices. I know there's people out there that say, hey, I'd never do business with Zillow. I'd never do business with realtor.com. I'd never buy leads.
Mm-hmm.
I would say you're almost right, but where else are you going to get started?
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to do that initial capital expenditure. Um, and then once you have a couple clients, you can grow the sphere from there. So our first lead source was realtor.com. Second was open houses. Um, third was working what little bit of sphere I had at the time. So when you said what platforms did you use, it was that BlackBerry that I had mentioned to you that say, okay, I have 50 people in my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call these people and ask them for business. And I did. And then from there, it grew into a database.
That's great.
So those two.
So you no longer use realtor.com. And would you say now, today, is your team's primary source of business from the sphere and from referrals?
We still do use
Oh, you
realtor.com.
still do?
And,
Okay.
and with the right vetting and strategic approach by another agent, the one-on-ones, they're a little bit more expensive, but buying a lead that three other agents are going to call, no,
Mm-hmm.
just no, don't even go there. If you can't have exclusivity, don't do it. So yeah, we do have a minor investment still in realtor.com. Um, but then the vast majority of our business comes from referrals from other consumers, of which we have a system that we reach out to our database um, at least once a month. So it sounds like a Hercules of an actual process, but movie trailer here. Elena and some of her action plans make it a whole lot easier.
That's great to hear. So, realtor.com, Sphere, open houses. Are there any other sorts of lead sources you provide for your agents?
Social media is a big one. Social media, landing pages on social media, so targeted ads, retargeting ads. On our particular website, you may see something called the No Regrets Guide. And
Okay.
the pay-per-click would go on there, click on it. It would ask them only for their email address. But when they do that, it sends them the guide and it
Mm-hmm.
trips an action plan that is one of your action plans, Elena. I just changed the verbiage up and made
Mm-hmm.
it more
For the guide.
local. Yeah, for the guide. So we get a good portion of leads from our website, from PPC, from social media. Um, where do our rest of our leads come from? That's the biggest pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's staying in contact and making accessible to our sphere, our SOI.
Mm-hmm.
That would say that a good 80% of our leads come from there.
Do you run the ads yourself, or have you hired a company to do this for you?
We have a local company. It's humcreative.co. We have an exclusivity agreement with them for the Atlanta area, but if anyone in the studio audience wants to reach out to them, they do excellent work. They're not expensive.
Hmm.
You may need to spend 2 hours with them on the phone, but it's HUM creative.co.
Okay.
So they manage a good portion of our SEO, PPC, and social media advertising.
And do they work exclusively for realtors, or do they also work in other industries?
They work in all industries.
Okay.
So
I've
they
never heard
they
of
have
them.
one of their amazing kind of things I love to hear them working on is they have a custom Learjet company that they do social media marketing for, which is like, wow. But at the end of the day, the audience is the same. It's someone that's
Mm.
curious about, and that's how they always start their marketing. Again, they built their platform around building a story brand by Don Miller.
Oh, there you go. That's probably
Hmm.
what led you to them is they had a similar philosophy that you do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Reoccurring theme there. Surround yourself with
Story
people
brand.
that do business similar to you
Mhm.
that you know it works, but also will challenge you.
Mhm. So we've talked about CRM, Follow Up Boss. We've talked about your lead generation sources. Do
Yeah.
you use any other tech tools that coincide with anything? Like what do you use
Any
for
other?
transaction management or
Yeah.
who's your website provider, things like that?
Yeah. You we utilize a photography and media company that's all in one. So you could kind of think of them as an Uber or a Lyft style company on demand.
Mm,
Meaning we go on a website, we schedule it, and then from a laundry list of different activity or different services, we pick different things like Zillow 3D Tour or floor plan designer. Why does all this matter? Is that it's all in one place. They build out a property page. It's fantastic. It's simple. It's mobile friendly. And on this page, it will say things like contact the agent or contact me. That going out into the consumer space before a listing goes live is a great lead generator. So we do get people interested. They see it, they click on it, and they say, yes, contact me. If they've gone to that much trouble, we know it's going to be a very good lead. And the
mm-hmm,
majority of the time, we do close on those leads. And it's, as no surprise, it's rarely about that specific property. It's almost
mm-hmm,
always, well, yeah, I'm looking for a home. And
mm-hmm,
sometimes those people will go on to some type of drip campaign, whether it be texting or email, but that is a very solid lead generation platform for us. And it's realkit.com. If they service your city, highly recommend them. They are multi-city. It is owned by two brothers. They hire local photographers. They do a fantastic job, and it's inexpensive.
That's great. You've been a wealth of knowledge today. I really appreciate you
Oh, you're
sharing.
welcome. Giving all the
So,
secrets away.
right, yeah. um, so you mentioned way back whenever you realized you had a lot of lead generation, too much to handle, you wanted to add agents to your team, you realized you needed a CRM. Why did you
Hmm.
end up choosing Follow Up Boss as your CRM?
Um, Modeling other successful agents. So I made the phone call and I listened.
Mm,
And if you're shopping for a CRM, it's important that you ask a question and then listen. And those questions were, when I was looking for the right CRM, instead of going out on the internet and going
mm,
to the home pages of these CRMs,
mhm,
I instead called people I knew were using. So
mm,
started out as a social post. Hey, Agent World, what CRM are you using and can I call you? And
mhm,
we have an industry that everybody wants everybody to succeed. And it's so
mm,
amazing if you ask for help. And so when I was talking to other agents that were using CRMs, um, questions I would ask is instead of the first question most people ask is, how much is it?
mm,
Forget cost. The question I ask first is, are you really using it? And are you comfortable me coming to your office and you showing me the interface on how you're using it?
mm,
So I made appointments. I went to go
mhm,
see. I sat down. I looked. There were two other runner ups, and both are great platforms. But Follow Up Boss was the clear winner because it was easy. It was easy, and I knew I would use it. There were a few bells and whistles at the time, but it wasn't so technologically advanced that it
mhm,
was threatening.
mhm,
I was talking to a rep at Follow Up Boss just recently, and he asked me a question: why do you like Follow Up Boss so much? And for you Android users, this might ruffle a few feathers, but for you Apple users, Follow Up Boss is like an iPhone. You turn it on, and there's no question on where you start. You start wherever you feel comfortable. You start right here. And for Follow Up Boss, whether it's on a browser or if it's on my phone, it's intuitive. I literally never had an onboarding session with Follow Up Boss. We turned it on, they integrated, and we just started jumping in and using it. It's that easy.
Yeah.
Now, with that, it may not have some of the fancy features that other CRMs do, and that's good. I wanted a CRM that would remind me to get in contact with my database because I knew other people were calling them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, starting with that, we grew what we used it for. But the primary driver is I went out into the marketplace and I asked other agents, what are you using? Are you still using it? What benefits have you seen? And has it helped your team? Has it helped your agents? And so we did some interviewing from there, and we landed on Follow Up Boss.
That's great. Do you remember when that was that you decided to start using Follow Up Boss?
Give me a second. So I'm doing the math. 2019.
Okay.
2019. So they were still Follow Up Boss 1.0.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah. Maybe 2.0.
Yeah. I think 2.0 first started. I don't remember. I don't want to get the dates wrong, but it was somewhere around then, maybe a year before, a year or two before. So you started using Follow Up Boss in 2019. How did we then, if you can remind me, because I don't remember, how did we initially meet and how did you get connected with Key Technology?
Oh, great question. So I remember seeing a post on Follow Up Boss on social, and you were commenting on something. And then a day later, I saw that you were commenting again, and you were always offering resources, and there was no go to my website to do this. So there was the online connection of, wow, this person really likes to help. She's coming from a place of service and she wants people to succeed. So from there, I clicked on your profile, clicked through to your website, and went, okay, this is somebody I could really use some help with. But what drew me to your company is that the way that you on your website at the time, you weren't solving a problem, you were offering a service to grow business instead of other things that I'd saw out there. Different tech companies were saying, hey, we get it. You don't know how to use your CRM and you need help. Instead, your approach was, okay, you've got discipline, you're using your CRM, let's make it even better. And that's how we connected. I clicked. Next thing I know, I believe it was your assistant set us an appointment up. And your company has a lot of great things going for it, but its directness is probably one of high on the list. You don't beat around the bush. You're like, hey, look, we got these action plans by permission from an agent that was very, very successful. Use these action plans. That's the appointment. And I went, okay. And the rest is history.
Yeah, it can be what's the word? It could be beneficial, but it also could be a hindrance on just my personality type. I'm very direct.
Oh, yeah.
And some people appreciate it and some people don't match well with that personality type, but I appreciate you saying that. Something I'm continuing to work on of not being too direct. I'm still working on my communication skills, but I appreciate you noticing that.
Well, I don't think you need any work on your communication skills. I think it's a matter of don't confuse direct with rude, because it's not. The directness is more of follow the plan, take a look at these, and then we'll give me feedback then. But you have a wonderful ability to disarm defensiveness, and maybe it's your directness, but I wouldn't confuse that with bluntness.
I love
Just
that.
like here it is, plug and play, do it or don't.
Yeah. So after you worked with us and had us set up your CRM, what changed? What did that look like?
So we were in Follow Up Boss already. And
Mhm.
then the first product or service I bought from you and your company was a tune-up, I believe. And I want to say it was anywhere between $300 and $500.
Mm.
And the speed that it was done and the changes that you made, I wanted to call you and say, are you sure you just want to charge $500 for this? But I did. And so you don't have my credit card number anymore, so you can't retro charge that. But from the action plans to the custom tags to just taking out a lot of noise that was already in there, um, it just made it much easier to navigate and look for tools that we really wanted quickly.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
And then after that initial tune-up, well, first of all, do you remember when that was? When did we originally
no
start
idea.
working together?
I don't remember what I had for breakfast, so don't even. I have no idea. I'm going to guess probably 4 years ago,
Okay.
Elena. Yeah, probably
So we've
four
known
years.
each other for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Since then, since that initial tune-up, have we worked more together, and what has that looked like?
Yeah. Well, again, on the Follow Up Boss social page, and I'm speaking specifically about on Facebook. If
Mm.
you're not part of the group, join the group. It's wonderful. People love to help. And your true personality keeps bubbling up of, hey, we have this to offer. And I believe it was maybe some custom tagging. I can't even really remember what it was. But I thought, well, that's really cool. Yeah, let's try that. Um, but it didn't have a price tag attached to it. And
Mm.
I said yes. And then your assistant sent me an email or want somebody on your team saying, oh, no, no, there's no charge for this. This is part of the services that you initially bought. We'll add these action plans to the action plans you already have.
Mm.
Again, I had to revisit the fact that I didn't think you were charging enough. Um, but you click this link, upload your name, your website, not website, your username and password, admin password. And you guys had the changes made the next day. So, you made it very easy, very easy.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I
Yeah.
love the story you mentioned earlier of every now and then, 6 months, and it's probably someone you haven't talked to recently, they'll receive an
Mhm,
email and then they become a client.
mhm,
What other sorts of results have you seen from the setup since the initial 4 years ago up until now, whether it's efficiency, simplicity, other
mm.
types of stories like that one where they become clients?
Well, if you are working with a team and not a solo agent, it's very easy for your team to be on the same page at the same time, so to speak. So, for example, we have our database segmented to where on a particular week, there are specific people with specific first name, first letter that we all reach out to. So, for example, Danny's going to call all her A's.
Mm.
Enrique calls all his A's. I call all my A's. So there's
Mhm.
some consistency around the brand, around the team that we can do that. So the number one thing I'd say is consistency for reach out. We're all doing the same thing. We may be doing it slightly different, but we're doing the same thing.
Mhm.
So the ease of just getting started, whether it be a week, a day, or maybe you're just getting back from vacation. Okay, you
Mm.
open up the lid of your Mac and you turn on Follow Up Boss, and you know where to go.
I love that.
Hmm.
Last question before I let you go. I'm sorry, we're a little bit over time. As we wrap up the conversation, I'm going to put you on the spot. Maybe you can take a second to think about the answer to this one.
Okay.
I'd love to hear about one specific strategy you've implemented, either for yourself or for your team, that may be considered a lesser known tip for your
Yeah.
business, whether that's, it doesn't have to be specific to Follow Boss, just something in your business that's had an impact in some way, whether it's an impact on your lead management, client
Yeah.
retention, or overall business growth and sales.
Our team, our culture, my personal pro hack is get educated on how to negotiate. So there's this fantastic author out there, Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator, amazing guy, great author. Read the book. Don't do the audible because the narrator will put you to sleep. It's a bedtime story.
I agree.
Read the book. Join the groups on Facebook that talk about it. Why am I mentioning this, and why is this a pro tip? As this compensation mess slowly gets settled, and we have to differentiate ourselves between other agents, other teams, other brokerages, the client's going to know what is so different about you. Customer service, yeah, you better. But being a certified or at least educated negotiator is going to make all the difference. So that particular book has become a skill set for our team, for me personally, and it's not just in real estate. So do yourself a favor, get skilled on something called tactical empathy. Read the book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and you are going to see such a big difference in your communication skills, how you present, but also how you listen, especially when someone's going through a very difficult situation. Which, guess what, folks? That's every time they buy or sell. It's a very difficult situation. So yes, my pro hack would be get educated, never stop learning. And for my team, for the last 2 years, it has been diving deep into tactical empathy by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
That's great. Well, it's good to know the book's good. I kind of discounted it after listening to the Audible because it was putting me to sleep. So I will give it
Oh,
another chance and read
yeah.
the hard copy instead of try to listen.
I made it about 1/4 of the way through the Audible version. And I grabbed my phone. I went to Instagram and I sent Chris Voss a private message, direct message. I don't, what do the kids call them now? DMs?
DM.
DM. Okay. So I sent, knowing that it's probably not him answering, but I'm like, please re-record this with your voice because he's great at telling his story. Now, no big deal. I hope he does re-record it, but there's nothing that can replace hand to paper with a pen, go through the book, strike it up, pretend you're back in college with your highlighter and a pen and note taking, because there's so many strategies that it's not a one read. It's one of those books that you'll come back to over and over again.
That's great. Well, I appreciate your time, Timothy, and for all
Yeah.
the knowledge you dropped already. And then you dropped another knowledge bomb.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your contributions in this
None of
call.
them are my ideas, Elena. None of them. So go out, get educated, ask other high performers, what are you doing? And Never Split the Difference was literally, it came to me from a friend who was in a different business, but I saw was so calm, so confident when shit hit the fan.
Mm.
And this book was instrumental in reskilling our team to do just that. So thank you for letting me share.
No, yeah. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.